Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann's son told cops dad hit mom. On-again, off-again couple Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann found themselves in another heated argument last month. Footage has been released that shows officers responding to a call from one of their children about his dad hitting his mom. Regrettably, the family has the police on speed dial with all the explosive issues they engaged in over the past year. Notably, Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann are on a second attempt at divorce. Since they have deep underlying issues, this week the court made the requirement for them to complete mediation before January 31, 2024. Currently, the estranged couple both live in their $6 million mansion in different parts of the house. However, the judge required the couple to place the home on the market to address their devastating financial issues. And while the two continue to be out enjoying lunch and dinner dates together, they frequently seem to need police intervention at home. During an over-the-top altercation last month, their son resorted to calling the police to report the incident. According to a recent report, one of Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann's 4 kids called the cops saying his dad was hitting his mom in a fight that erupted outside of the Georgia mansion. On November 20, police arrived at the Zolciak Biermann residence. Initially, Kroy is shown shouting at an officer and vaguely answering that their fight was about their lives being destroyed. Additionally, he continues by being combative with his tone to the officer saying, "Nothing will happen just like last time." Within the body cam footage, Kroy Biermann claims that Kim Zolciak has slept with other men, while also spewing multiple other accusations of his estranged wife. As the policeman attempts to understand the situation, Kroy continues to yell, "Our life. Our life. And it's f***ing destroyed." Adding more to his case, he says Kim can't make up her mind if she wants to be together or divorce. He also says she cannot address or solve problems. It's nothing but an act. It's all a bunch of bulls, he asserts. Confused, the cop asks, "What is?" In response, Kroy says elaborately, everything she does. Everything. Then he tells the officer, "I'm not going to do this." As he motions back and forth between him and the policeman referring to having another conversation about Kim Zolciak. Then he adds, because this does nothing but fuel her bulls. Reiterating, he says, "I'm not doing this." This is narcissistic behavior. Kroy says, "Who called you?" The cop tells him one of the kids. He noticeably gets angry at that and wants to know which one. Then an officer speaks to Kim Zolciak. Kim says they were discussing the divorce, and he was screaming at her for 2 hours like a crazy person. She was in her vehicle and said he was blocking her from leaving earlier that day. The officer asks, "Are you hurt in any way?" She tells him she isn't, but returns to the issue of Kroy yelling at her uncontrollably. She also mentioned her son wanting to leave and go to a friend's house earlier in the day to get away from the fighting. In the world of reality television, where drama is as constant as the cameras rolling, a new controversy unfolded in the family of Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann, drawing the public's attention once again. Their marriage, once hailed as a fairy tale love story in front of Bravo's cameras on Don't Be Tardy, was now showing signs of deep cracks, and their son's chilling words to the police seemed to open the door to the family's escalating turmoil. It started on a typical summer evening, one where Kim, known for her sharp wit and glamour, was hosting a small gathering at the house she and Kroy had shared for years. Though the couple had experienced their ups and downs, their relationship appeared solid to the outside world, until that night. According to reports, tensions simmered behind closed doors, and when police arrived at the Biermann residence following a disturbing 911 call, what they found painted a much darker picture than the facade Kim and Kroy had maintained. Their teenage son, visibly shaken, was the one who had placed the call. His voice, tremulous but determined, told the officers a story that no child should have to tell. "My dad hit my mom," he said quietly as they arrived at the scene. It was a sentence that, in a matter of seconds, tore down the public image of a happy couple and painted a tragic portrait of the reality that had been festering within the walls of the Biermann home. The officers approached the situation cautiously, understanding the gravity of what had just been said. Inside, Kim stood in the kitchen, her face slightly flushed, her iconic blonde hair pulled into a loose bun, and her eyes swollen from crying. Kroy, on the other hand, was seated at the dining table, his face stern and filled with frustration. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and their children hovered in the background, clearly distressed by what had transpired. "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened here tonight?" One officer asked gently, though his eyes flicked to the child who had made the call, still standing by the door, clearly shaken by the events he had witnessed. Kim took a deep breath, crossing her arms over her chest, as if trying to hold herself together. "We had a disagreement," she began, her voice hoarse. "It got out of hand, but," she faltered, glancing at her son, whose presence seemed to force her to reconsider the narrative she was about to weave. Kroy interrupted her, his deep voice steady but edged with frustration. "It was nothing," he said flatly. "We were arguing, that's it. It never should have gotten to this point." The officer exchanged a look with his partner, who was taking down notes. "Sir, we need to take this seriously. Your son said you hit your wife. We need to investigate." The word investigate hung heavily in the air. Kroy's face hardened, and his hands balled into fists on the table, but he kept his composure. "I didn't hit her," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I was angry. I slammed the door. But I didn't lay a hand on her." But the damage was already done. Their son's words carried the weight of a child who had witnessed something that could not be easily erased from his memory, whether or not physical violence had actually taken place. The officers had no choice but to continue with their protocol, ensuring that the welfare of everyone involved, especially the children, was their top priority. Kim, though shaken, quickly stepped into protective mode. She turned to the officers, her voice now firm, trying to control the narrative. "It's been a stressful time," she explained. "We've been under a lot of pressure, financially and emotionally. Kroy's been struggling with retirement, and I've been trying to keep everything together. But he didn't hit me. We've just been fighting more than usual." The officer raised an eyebrow but didn't respond immediately. He turned his attention back to the boy, who was standing silently by the door, his arms crossed over his chest in a mirror of his mother's posture. "Is there anything else you want to tell us?" he asked gently. The boy shook his head slowly, his eyes downcast. "No," he mumbled. I thought he hit her. He was yelling and slamming doors. I got scared." With that, the officer nodded, recognizing the signs of a home filled with tension, if not outright violence. He knew that domestic disputes could often be complex, fueled by underlying stressors that outsiders rarely fully understood. But his job was to ensure that everyone was safe, especially the children who bore witness to such events. As the officers spoke privately, Kim and Kroy stood a few feet apart, neither looking at the other. The cracks in their marriage, once hidden beneath designer clothes and reality TV glitz, were now glaringly visible. The pressures of life after Kroy's NFL career had taken a toll on their relationship, and Kim's attempts to maintain her public image of perfection only added to the strain. Their finances were reportedly in disarray, and Kroy's transition from professional athlete to full-time family man had been anything but smooth. The officers eventually determined that there was no immediate threat to anyone's safety, but the incident couldn't be ignored. They informed Kim and Kroy that a report would be filed, and that counseling or intervention might be necessary to help diffuse the tension in the household. As the officers left, the weight of what had happened lingered heavily in the air. In the days that followed, the story broke, making headlines in tabloids and entertainment blogs alike. Fans of Dobie Tardy were shocked, many of them finding it hard to reconcile the glamorous life Kim had showcased on television with the reality of what had transpired in her home. Social media buzzed with opinions, with some expressing sympathy for Kim and her children, while others wondered how deep the issues in her marriage to Kroy went. As Kim and Kroy struggled to navigate the fallout from their son's 911 call, one thing was clear. The facade of perfection that reality TV had built was crumbling, and the true state of their relationship was now on display for all to see. Whether they would be able to pick up the pieces and rebuild their family remained uncertain, but the scars left by that summer evening would not be easily forgotten, especially for their son, whose chilling words had forced a family's secrets into the light.